It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brouhaha. Sitting here, I'm Marshall Wood, sitting here looking at Dale McKee, and we're ready to get this Brouhaha started. Mr. McKee, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How you been doing?
Man, I've been doing good. I've been doing good because college football has kicked off, and I'm not saying it's running. I guess it's running about full speed now. Everybody's in the mix. Everybody's out there getting after it. And
yeah,
it's been exciting already.
Always get a little controversy too. Started,
Yeah.
We're always. I think Auburn's having a little, trouble over there, and people already got old Hughes on a hot seat. He's been down there second year.
Well, sounds like he needs to get him a quarterback. The quarterback keeps throwing interceptions.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't know how they recruited their quarterbacks or got them in. I'm not sure if they're NIL or high school players or, I know they had a great high school player that he really looked like at Arkansas, coming out of Arkansas. But, the one thing I guess I'm disappointed, I go back to a Bear Bryant or Nick Saban. Did you ever hear them throw any of their players under the bus ever? No.
Can't recall it.
And I'm just saying that I think that's really not what a coach is supposed to do.
So how exactly you throw them under the bus? What exactly did you do?
I'm just getting all these comments from Facebook posts. I don't know exactly what the comment was, but he said something like, "We got to get our quarterbacks to keep throwing the ball to the other team," or something like that, I guess. And then it just kind of started a fire, and some of his former players from Ole Miss said, well, it was always his fault. I mean, it was always our fault. It was never his.
You remember John McKay?
I do.
He coached at Southern Cal, did at Tampa Bay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would he throw you under the bus?
I'm not sure.
I remember one time he was doing an interview. He said, "Well, we might not have run the ball very well, but we made up for it by not tackling very well either." Stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was always.
Well, that was almost humorous, probably.
Yeah.
To a state.
He was a character.
Yeah, but I think Auburn, they just, we were talking before the show started, Vanderbilt's probably ahead of Auburn, Florida, and Mississippi State,
Now tell me this.
Yeah.
I'm watching this, and I saw scores come up this past weekend, and I'm going, how can this be?
Mm-hmm.
How can that be?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, Dale. Why is that happening?
They took the number 6 or 7 team in the country to overtime at their place and lost.
Is Vanderbilt NIL and all that stuff too?
No. I mean, they may be, but they're a private school. They kind of do what they want to do as far as that because, they don't have any public records. But, as Mississippi State got a $8 million donation last week, and I was told that the money is for the future. Now, what they meant by the future is they think the NCAA or somebody's going to come in and say, okay, the schools have to play these players. You cannot go through these NILs that they've created, outside the school. They're going to almost make the schools pay these players.
So like the deal up there at Ole Miss, what they call that?
The Grove.
So that's not going to be allowed anymore?
Well, I mean, Ole Miss will have to pay them. The university will.
So the Grove.
They will be like an employee. From what I heard now.
Who will be an employee?
The players.
Okay. So the Grove won't be able to pay them anymore?
Mm-mm. They will have to get the money through the university.
So they'll have to the Grove will have to collect the money, give it to the university.
No. The Grove will be out of it.
So there'll be no more NIL collectives?
There'll be no NIL as far as that's concerned, but there'll still be an NIL, but it'll be run by the schools. The money you will donate the money to the school instead of to the Grove.
Okay.
And then the school will have to pay them supposedly as employees.
Okay.
Take out Medicare, Social Security, and retirement and everything.
Well, they should be having to get that now through
Yeah.
the consortium, because if a consortium is paying them checks and not doing that, they're breaking the law. They have to do that already.
Yeah, well, they may be. I don't know.
Oh, I guarantee you they do.
But anyway,
I don't understand that.
well, I don't know. That's what I was told, that Mississippi State is holding this money for the future, that no present players will be involved in this $8 million.
Okay.
That they're just trying to get it started there.
So, but that's only this $8 million, but all the others. So you're saying just because State got $8 million they hold it for the future, all the NIL collectives are gone now?
No, I'm not saying they're gone yet. That's what Mississippi State's expecting.
Mississippi State's expecting that.
No, they're expecting it. Supposedly, the rumor is that they'll go away. Now, you're asking a person that just heard one comment from the university's athletic director.
I'm not just asking a person. I'm asking Dale McKee.
I know that, but what I'm
40
saying,
years sports writer knows everything.
I only got my information from that, and now you're asking me questions I'm not really sure that I'm capable of answering.
I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say they were doing away with NILs collection.
Well, okay, the collectives that they have now, like the Grove, will no longer be, but people can still donate in I guess in the NIL stuff. But it will be run through the university. All the money will be run through the university. Right now, the money's not run through the university, you know. And of course, a lot of this, I didn't know this till the other day, that a lot of these players are almost fired. You know, the coaches will supposedly come up to them and tell them, say, listen, I don't think that we're going to need you anymore. You know, you need to find another place. Well, when they tell them that, the money's cut off because there's really no contracts.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess there'll be contracts under this new system.
That's gonna change the NIL. That's interesting because that's gonna create a lot of cheating.
Sure. I still.
We're gonna go back to how we were before. Everybody's gonna cheat.
Yeah. I still. It's kind of gonna be like, you know, let's get us an old Miss Football Booster Club and we'll have some money on the sides for the really good ones. You know.
I would be more inclined to give to a collective than I would to university.
Well, that's a good.
Would
point.
you?
That's a good point.
Would you?
I don't know either way. I've given to universities and still do.
For football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't know. It's for all sports programs, I assume.
See, that's the deal.
Yeah.
If you go to the university, then are they going to have to spend that money at your direction, or are they going to be able to spend it on whatever they want to spend it on?
Well, I think that each player will get some money in every sport. Is what it's supposed to be.
So they're going to water it down.
They may water it down depending on how many they go, but they're going, you know, right now, even walk-ons at some universities are getting money. Mm-hmm. You know, and scholarship players in other sports may not be getting that same money as the walk-ons in certain sports.
I guess my point is they're going to take away the fans' ability to direct where the money goes, and that ain't going to work. Do you think?
Well, they may not want it to work.
Yeah. So they're going to try to kill the NIL.
Well, they may.
Who are they?
I don't know. Who are they? Who are they?
Well, listen, I tell you what. Who's our guest? Do you know who that is?
I don't know. You got me so confused. Hey, I tell you what. Let's ask Ben that we're fixing to call.
Oh, so our guest name is Ben.
Ben Rosenberg.
Okay.
Yeah. He works for the Columbus, Mississippi newspaper.
Okay.
He covers Mississippi State. He's the beat writer. Remember,
Okay.
he covers Mississippi State, all their sports. Yeah. We're going to ask him about that $8 million and see what he has
that
to say.
$8 million, what you're telling me, is going to change the entire NIL for the whole NCAA.
I don't know. No, not necessarily. I mean, other colleges are probably doing it too. I don't think Mississippi State would just come up with this idea on their own.
Is Ole Miss doing it? Is Alabama doing it?
Ole Miss and them have not announced it. They have not announced it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, who'd you say again? Ben Rosenberg.
Ben.
Well, I tell you what, we're looking forward to hearing from Ben. I'm not tired of hearing from you.
Yes, sir, I am too. Oh, I'm confused. You've confused me.
I'm sorry. Let's take a break and hear from our sponsor, and Dale and I'll be back with Ben Rosenberg right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Ben. Ben, good to have you on the show again. I know that you've been following the Mississippi State Bulldogs this year, and just talk to us about what you think after the first 3 games and maybe what's going forward for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Certainly not the start to this season of the Jeff Lebby era that the coaching staff, the players, and these Bulldog fans had hoped for. You have to figure with this upcoming stretch that they have in their schedule, they really had to be minimum 3-1, if not 4-0 at this point. Instead, the Bulldogs are 1-3, having lost 3 straight games at Arizona State, then home against Toledo, and then the SEC opener last week against Florida. And really, I mean, the defense we kind of knew would struggle. I didn't see them, giving up 41 points against Toledo, but they've really struggled to stop anyone. They can't really generate a ton of push up front at the point of attack, and they've struggled to defend in the secondary as well, just leaving wide open spaces for receivers to just get in there and make the catch and pick up chunk plays. And opposing quarterbacks have really, Florida's quarterbacks only threw 2 incompletions in that game on Saturday, and Toledo's quarterback, Tucker Gleason, he'd come in with a completion percentage below 50%, and he was, 23 out of 28 in that game against State. But what might even be more concerning is the offense, which has shown flashes of explosiveness, the explosiveness that was promised, when Jeff Lebby was hired. But they've started games really, really slowly, every game really except for the opener against Eastern Kentucky. They've just put themselves behind the chains through penalties and sacks and negative plays. They were able to run the ball some against Florida. And now, obviously, the big news that came on Saturday night is that Blake Shapen, the starting quarterback, is going to be out for the year with a shoulder injury. So Michael Van Buren, a true freshman, is going to make his first start on Saturday at number 1 Texas. So that's a heck of a fire to throw him into. They play number 2 Georgia on the road as well after that, with a bye week in between. The other quarterback, a redshirt freshman, Chris Parson, Levy said he's going to be in the mix as well there. So obviously very tough to lose Shapen, who was a veteran and had played quite a bit of football at Baylor. And they're going to be out. They're out a few other guys too. Kevon Lee, one of the veteran running backs, is going to be unavailable for quite some time. We're not sure about Isaac Smith, who entered last week as the country's leader in tackles. He got knocked out in the third quarter of the Florida game. So, yeah, not a lot of good news here out of Starkville this fall. And with the schedule, they've still got to play 5 top 10 teams, 4 of them on the road going forward. So it's only going to get tougher.
Yeah, about Blake. Will Blake be able to redshirt this year? Be able to come back, or will that be his call, or will he have eligibility?
Jeff Lebby sounded pretty confident that he will be able to acquire that medical hardship waiver and get an extra year, because he is a 5th-year senior this year. He redshirted as a true freshman at Baylor in 2020, which is also, obviously the COVID year, so everyone got an extra year from that. And he battled injuries as well while he was at Baylor. But the thing that matters here is, he only played in 4 games this season, and generally, if you're a true freshman and you play in 4 games or fewer, you can still have your redshirt year intact. So Lebby had talked to Shapen and his family, and they sounded pretty confident that he's going to be able to get that waiver and be able to acquire that one last year of eligibility.
Okay, now what is his? Have they released the injury? I know there's a lot of HIPAA rules and this and that, but what was supposedly wrong with Blake, or how did he get injured?
We know it's a shoulder injury. It's his shoulder. His arm is in a sling, or was at practice today. But Lebby said that he was pretty upbeat about it, and was still in the room getting rehab, and he was coaching the other guys up out on the field there. We didn't exactly see what happened in real time. I think it happened on a running play toward the end of the third quarter. When Mississippi State drove down to the goal line. He stayed in for a little while and finished that drive, that ended with a botched speed option pitch on 4th and goal from the 1. And then Van Buren came in for the next series after that in the 4th quarter. And we saw Chapin jogging to the locker room. It didn't appear that he was, in real dire condition. And after the game, the coaches were pretty coy about it and said they're going to find out more later. And, well, they found out more that night and sent out that release that he was going to be out for the year.
Well, with the schedule that they have, you said they have 5 top 10 teams remaining on the schedule. Is there any hopes for any more wins? Because Marshall and I were talking before the show that right now I would have to rate, just watching from what I've seen. I know Vanderbilt had a hiccup there against Georgia State, I believe it was, but I would almost have to rate Vanderbilt ahead of Auburn and Florida and Mississippi State. What's your thoughts on it? Are the Bulldogs destined for the lower 4 of the 16-team SEC?
Yeah, just winning an SEC game does not look very likely because even the other few games that they have at home, A&M hasn't looked great. Neither is Arkansas, but then Arkansas goes and beats Auburn. Arkansas should have beaten Oklahoma State on the road in week 2 as well. They struggled a little bit against UAB. But, yeah, thankfully, I guess, is that Mississippi State does have one more non-conference game at the beginning of November against UMass, who might be the worst FBS team in the country, although they did lose to Toledo by fewer points than Mississippi State did. So if you want to read into that part of it. They'll definitely be favorites in the UMass game, but other than that, we're probably looking at a 2-10 season.
Well, listen, what happened in the Toledo ball game? Did they just not show up and play, or was Toledo just seemed a lot better than they have better personnel?
Toledo's a solid team. They're a quality team in the MAC. They're usually at or near the top of that conference. But there's really no excuse for that to happen to an SEC team on your home field to just get thoroughly dominated on both sides of the ball. And to be honest, that 41-17 scoreline flattered Mississippi State. It could have been worse. They were just manhandled in the trenches on both sides, left Toledo's receivers with basically their own zip codes to go and find room to operate. And on offense, they go 3 and out on their first 3 possessions, and we're just stuck behind the chains far too often, thanks to whether it's a hold, an offensive pass interference, a sack. They allowed 5 sacks in that game, I think it was, and Blake Chapin, he would look up 2-3 seconds after taking the snap, and there are 3 guys right on top of him. He had no time to get rid of the ball. When that's happening to you against what's supposed to be, a lower tier of opponent, I know you can't really treat it like that, but still, that's just it speaks a lot to where this team is right now. Everything is so new. The coaching staff, pretty much every starter on both sides. This staff, you can't give up on this staff right now. They just got here, but it's a long, long uphill climb, and I think they're just starting to realize how steep that hill is.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma sure needed Libby the other night against Tennessee because their offense looked like it was struggling, especially at the quarterback position. And but I just know from when he was at Ole Miss, he is a great offensive coordinator, and he's probably going to get the Bulldogs offense when he gets the personnel that he needs. And how's recruiting going for him? Is it going pretty good despite the losses, you think?
It has been, actually. They had some momentum after that Toledo game. They got a couple of 4-star commitments, including a running back for the class of 2026. They've got some 4-stars for the class of 2025, the current high school seniors. Camario Taylor, the quarterback nearby at Knox City County, is still committed. He's a high-end 4-star. He's got a great size, and he's got a lot of speed, a dual-threat guy. I know people are worried that he might open his recruitment back up, might pick up a fifth star, and then that would, get him an Alabama offer or an LSU offer or an Ole Miss or something like that. I think he has some of those already. But yeah, State's really got to hold on to him because he could be a big part of their future. They also got a nice $8 million gift from an anonymous donor last week to the football program. So that's the second largest individual contribution in the history of that athletic department. So that can hopefully keep things going in terms of facilities and getting things back on track here.
Well, now somebody told me I listened to an interview, that $8 million is not designated for any of the players currently, but somebody said that they were going, that in the NCAA and down the road, I don't know what down the road is, 1 month, 2 months, 4 years, is fixing to have all that money funneled through the universities and not the NILs that they, created. What have you heard about that money?
Well, I think if that's the case, that just speaks to the future of where this is likely headed. Because right now, players aren't getting paid directly by the school. You've got these NIL collectives that every school has got set up. The Bulldog Initiative in Mississippi State, which is led by Charlie Winfield, an alum, and does a lot of broadcasting and stuff for the university for various sports. But based on just all the legislation that's going through Congress and all that, it seems that at some point that we are going to get to where student athletes are being paid directly by the schools. So it sounds like maybe this donation, this money, is being set aside for when that happens, so that they have sort of a certain amount already in the bank for to pay student athletes directly down the road.
This is Marshall, man. That seems like that's going to just, if they move to making where the universities are going to pay the NIL money, that's going to change everything that I'm thinking in the way the NIL is currently conducted. It's going to change a lot. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I mean, maybe, but maybe not, because that's kind of already what these collectives are set up for. I mean, it's indirect, but it's really not, because they're technically independent from the schools, but they're still they're still that same kind of oversight. So I think it may just remove that step of the process and make facilitating things a little bit easier. But more or less, it's going to end up looking pretty similar, I would think, to how it does now.
Yeah. Well, you put an interesting twist on that there that kind of makes a lot more sense than what I came up with. But don't be too excited. It's not hard to make more sense than I do. Listen, Ben, we're about out of time, man. It flies when you're having fun. And Dale and I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us and tell us what's going on up there in your world and Mississippi State. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to ask you if you would be so kind to hold on just a minute. We're going to break to a commercial to hear from one of our sponsors, and Dale and I will be back with tonight's final segment after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. I tell you what, it's good to hear from Ben and what's going on up there from a professional observation at Mississippi State.
He's up there every day.
Yeah. It kind of, we were kind of kicking that thing around, that NIL thing around. What he said was, he doesn't believe from his standpoint. What I heard him say was it's going to change much, from the way it is now. And I don't know. I mean. It is what it is.
Well, the university will just probably hire the people running the NIL.
There you
go. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Do your thing. What's the thing is?
Get her done, boy. Get her done.
Pay these guys. Come on, let's go.
Well, Dale, let's see a couple of things I got here we can talk about. I'm sure we got something we can talk about. We talked about Mississippi State Ole Miss continues to roll, do they not?
Oh, they do. They've got a great combination there with Jackson Dart and the Harris kid. I mean, those guys are quality players. They'll be playing on Sundays one day somewhere.
I'll tell you a guy that's been, that you can get me his name out, is number 2 on the defensive side of the ball. Is that the Nolan guy?
Mm-hmm.
He's a monster.
He can play.
Oh, man. I was watching him run through people and tackle people. He would be taking guys trying to block him, running through them, and with one arm in their chest and pulling the guy with the ball down with the other. Man, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he is.
That defense is making a big difference.
The J.J. Piggis that played at Oxford, I saw him in the state championship game in Hattiesburg maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I tell you what, they've used him at defensive line and at running back.
Yeah, they did that last year.
And he scored a couple touchdowns already for him this year.
He's a good athlete.
Yeah.
He's a Chucky Mullins guy, too.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. He was wearing that 38 this past weekend.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do with our Golden Eagles?
Well, we had a guest a couple weeks ago, Andrew Abady of Pine Belt Sports.
Yeah.
And he was expressing to us that when the athletic director, Jeremy McLean, all he wants is for the coaches to show improvement. But I don't know right now if the Eagles are showing that improvement. Yeah. And I do not think that Southern wants to go through another disaster like they did 2 or 3 years ago when they had 3 head coaches in 1 year, if you remember that.
Oh, man.
You know, they started
like they had a bunch of quarterbacks in one year and a bunch of head coaches in another year.
And so I think that Will is going to finish this year. He's got 1 year on his contract, but Will probably needs to, hopefully, win 5 or 6 games, and I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I hope it is.
Because, James Madison, was it James Madison that put 50 on North Carolina?
Yeah.
And USM has to go there to play them this year.
Ouch.
Yeah. And
that's a prospective ouch.
Of course, South Alabama beat them down last year. Of course, they got South Alabama at home this year. But they've also got, they got Louisiana Lafayette this week in Monroe. Or no, they're open this week, and then next week they got Louisiana, and then they've got Monroe after that. So, they beat both of those folks last year, so maybe they can repeat that and get on a little roll,
Yeah. Well, we're pulling for them. We can hope they can get it together.
Yeah, we certainly pulling for Will.
Yeah. A little more conference realignment prospects. I'm reading some stuff about the Pac-12 has added 2 more schools to a list of desired expansion teams. 2 schools, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Utah State. Currently, the Pac-12 has just got 2 teams, the Washington State Cougars and the Oregon State Beavers. But they're trying to line folks up, and they're talking about even maybe reaching over this way and getting some schools like Memphis, Tulane, the University of South Florida, the University of Texas, San Antonio have all been rumored as potential options. This stuff, the geography, man, what a nightmare. I mean, from a geographical standpoint.
Well, you look at the Big 12. I mean, they go from the East Coast to the West Coast. I mean, Baltimore, Maryland's on the Atlantic Ocean, right? University of Maryland's it's on the Atlantic Ocean almost. You go all the way to the Pacific. That's 4 time zones.
That's coast to coast, baby.
But we're talking about Mississippi State too. But what tickled me is, 2 of those Big 12 players are the Big 10 players. Will Rogers from Mississippi State has thrown like 6 touchdown passes this year in 3 games. I'm sure State would like to have him back. And the little Marsh kid that scored a winning touchdown against LSU in Vegas, he played real well against Michigan last Saturday. So, but I'm just amazed. I don't understand it. I think you need backyard teams playing backyard. I don't care if you're on the high school level, you need to play the closest schools to you.
Yeah.
If they will.
Yeah. It's sure, to me, of course, at this collegiate level, it's a lot different than high school level, but, proximity breeds, proximity might breed contempt for one another, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Sometimes the folks that are closest to you, for here, Wayne County and Quitman or Laurel, the closer they get, a lot of times the more intense it gets.
Oh, it gets intense, but you got the great rivalries. I remember last year I went to a Wayne County Quitman basketball game just before Christmas, and the gym was almost sold out because they hadn't played in several years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they come down here and both sides are slam full. And so those kids want to play before a full house.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want to go out there and see about 50 people on each side.
Yeah.
They want to go out there and play before, a lot of fans. And so, that's the only thing I say about, playing people, close to you and everything.
Well, Dale, I hate to tell you this, you're on quite a roll there and everything, but it's time. Yeah, you're
Oh,
rolling.
my goodness.
You rolling, dog. We're about the end of our time. We want to remind everybody that they can follow us on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and all of our programs are cataloged on our YouTube channel, the Brouhaha, and you can listen to those things on demand. That means you can listen to them when you want to, and if you want to turn it off, you can turn it off whenever you want to. So that's a pretty good thing. So y'all can check us out there. We got a lot of, I guess, how many shows you reckon we got on there, Dale? 100 or so, you reckon?
Well, we've been doing it for 3 years. So we started in August of 21.
Yeah.
And so this is our third year. We've finished three years. How many weeks in a year? 52?
52.
Yeah, so we got well over 100.
That's a lot of, but y'all can check us out there. But anyway, have a lot of fun.
Why does Jamie keep us on the air, by the way?
I guess that's a good question.
That's what.
Jamie, send us an email. Tell us why you're keeping us on the air. But anyway, it's time has come. It's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.